This segment has been sponsored by Pro Bikes Caribe. Pro Bikes Caribe, get yours today. Before we get into today's interview, hear a little bit about the book from the author themselves.
Hi, I am Gyanchand Rayman of St. Lucia. My book, Ready for Stage 10 Short Plays, were featured at our National Cultural Center by secondary school students. These plays are engaging and entertaining and make fine reading for teenagers and older. It is available on Amazon.
Greetings, listenership. Welcome to TLC, Tropical Literature Creatives, the podcast where we interview authors of Caribbean heritage about themselves and about their literary works. And also, we'll be hearing about authors who you've heard of, as well as those you'll be hearing about soon enough. Today, we have with us Mr. Gyanchand Rayman of St. Lucia, author of several literary works. Mr. Rayman, welcome to Tropical Literature Creatives.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm pleased to have this interview with you.
Oh, we're very pleased that you would have agreed to be interviewed. Someone as yourself who is very esteemed, who has such a command of the English language, and who has been involved in the creative arts in conjunction with literature. Which Caribbean island are you affiliated with?
Well, right now I am in St. Lucia, but born Guyanese, wrote about Guyana, came over to Jamaica, wrote about Jamaica, lived in Trinidad for a little while too, where you are, wrote, marked exams of 30 years in Barbados, up and down, and there I have experience too. And all these places which I've either lived or have experience in, I've written about these countries. And what I try to do is to reflect the culture of the people in each country.
I mean, that is fantastic. I think because of that, your writings are even richer to the persons who are reading it, seeing that you have an understanding of the culture of each of the particular countries in which your writings may be based on. The books that you would be looking at, or at least we may be inquiring about, that you would have written are, first off, one called Enticing Short Stories, another one called Touch of Wings, and the third one being Ready for Stage. Can you tell us a little bit about each of these books?
All right. I'll choose the Enticing Short Stories, firstly, because it's a carryover from what I just told you about the places I lived. So I have 20 stories in this collection.
Yes.
And I reflected what these cultures are. I have different kinds of writings. I have adventure, I have romance, I have mystery, I have horror. So in this book that I call Enticing Short Stories, it is enticing indeed because they're captivating. And what I have at the bottom of the book on the cover, it has for readers 16 years and over. The 16 years and over does not mean it has adult language, it has graphic sex, and so on. No, it is not that. It is because the language is very literary. It is entertaining. It is something that you can pick up and enjoy language, enjoy storytelling. Look at characterization, look at setting, look at descriptions and the beauty of the dialogue, the richness. So when you read this book, it is something that you're going to say, wow, I have read something worthwhile. I can go now and take some fresh air and I'm good. I'm energized. And I'm not saying this really to put a plug for my book. It is what it is. So that's that. Let me go to Touch of Wings. Touch of Wings poetry. I have 100 poems in this. And just a little note, I'm doing another 100 for publication in the new year. Now, Touch of Wings, it is that I have looked at life in so many different ways. I'm looking at it in a celebratory manner. I'm looking at life where it's questioning. I'm looking at challenges people have. And all of it, again, just like my enticing short stories, I play around with language. Look at my metaphors. They're rich, they're appealing, And when people read this book, is that it is not just poetry to tell us something, it is the manner of the telling. It is the enjoyment you get from reading. I am a language lover through and through. All my life, that's what I do.
Was that intentional, by the way? Or is it that you speak in prose, language lover through and through? That is what you do?
Yes, that's true. And look at this. And I'll tell you why also when I look at things like Ready for Stage, and I'm going to be combining them just now. Ready for Stage, 10 short plays. I have been writing plays for my students to perform at school and at the National Conference Center here. And we were participating in the National Drama Festival year after year. So I would write for them. I wouldn't be taking people's stories that you have to modify here and there. I write specifically for them to know that they can perform this. I write with the knowledge that we have facilities or the limitations of the facilities. We can create backdrops. We have the technicians, what they can do. I write with this entire knowledge and I say, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And I look at drama, for example, from the following perspectives. I write as a writer. So I want my story told, whatever I'm going to be writing about. I write from the standpoint of the director. What is possible for him to do on stage? How is he going to be directing it? Is it going to strain him to do it? Or is it going to be manageable? I write from the standpoint of the actor himself. Where does the actor stand? What levels are we going to be using? I write from the audience's perspective. So we have the wings. We know we can't push people too far by close to the wings, because audience on one side may not be able to see them. You can't have them too much in the background because we want them right at the front there. That's what we call downstage. Close to downstage, to center, a little closer to down from the center. So when I move people around, the audience can look and say, I can see these people. I can hear these people, because we have to deal with articulation. So I have these three perspectives: the writer, the director, and we have the audience. Well, four and the author, the actor. I also look at the people who manage the technical aspects, light and costuming. So when can they lower the lights to dim it? When can they improve the lights? When can they use spotlights? Where are they going to use that? So I discuss with them and say, hey, you know what we're going to do? This is what we're going to do. Would it work? So I have that kind of knowledge when I write. Now, to combine these, here is what I want to say, Kevin. For the writer who writes prose, the prose can be enriched from the knowledge one has of the stage. What I mean is that when one gets into his head what works on stage, he's able to visualize it. And when you're able to visualize, you can then transfer that into your prose. Your prose becomes sharp. It becomes rich. One can visualize it. I'm using the word rich intentionally because it is like that. Also, when you're going to be writing your poetry calls for the use of a lot of literary devices, and writing your poetry helps you to write your prose, because in your prose, you can use your literary devices to appeal to the reader. So what I'm saying, I who am involved in all the genres of writing, I can write in any particular one and use the knowledge of another one. So I integrate prose, poetry, and drama all the time. So I borrow from one to the other. And that is how we do this thing. And we did not, you see this stage background? That stage background is very, very important for writers, because that is where it's audiovisual. You watch, and you see what's happening, you hear what's happening, you know what's possible, and then you write your prose. Your prose now is going to be awesome because you're able to see what you're doing. You know, the reader can visualize. You have the literary quality of, let's say, rhythm, the rhythm of the language, use of alliteration, things like that. So I would advocate, as a writer, as a practitioner of this language, that one who wants to write in any genre should try to study all of them, because you can borrow pieces from each.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raymond. I mean, I started off with just questions about the books, but I realized that you went into detail as to how it is that you can transition the skills that you have from one genre into the next, and how it is that, you know, the art of acting, of stage play can help with person's writing. So we're getting a lot of gems from you at this point in time for this interview.
Thank you. You notice I'm very passionate about this, what I'm doing.
No, it is. You can't miss it. You can't miss the passion. You can't miss the passion at all. Are you a full-time writer, or do you have another form of employment in addition to writing?
All right. Let me say two other forms of employment. One, I'm retired, but I've been called to teach exam students, school after school. So I only come in last minute when people are struggling, and come, teach them, I get my money, and I go. So right now, I'm with the St. Lucia Sports Academy. So I'm teaching them, and these persons in the sports department, they are very, very good at sports, but to get scholarships, they need their English and mathematics to make it to the academics to study. So that's where I come in with English. So I help them there. That's one form of employment. The next one is I edit. So I edit research papers, I edit speeches, I edit anything that is language based that people want to verify. How is this going? Am I doing it well? Is the structure okay? Am I saying what I'm supposed to be saying? So the last I did was somebody's PhD thesis, and I've done a number of it, and I do in every kind of field they bring to me. From you're talking about the religious thing to the purely academic, as in sociology and anything, I just do. So these are the two forms of employment. Now I'm coming to the writing. So tonight, for example, I have to edit somebody's work. I'm going to do a part of it, which has to do with a biography. When I finish my quota tonight, I'm switching over to write a poem. So I'm going to do that. I have on the back burner also a book that I intend to bring out for CXC students who want to write stories, because I do what is called models. Models in the case where academics may say, oh no, don't give these students models because they're going to write exactly what you say. I can say from this standpoint, they are wrong. What students need is something that they can look at and say, this is an approach I can take. Look at these expressions, I like them. Nothing is new under the sun. People borrow from others. They borrow a word, they borrow a phrase, they borrow a style. We all learn, and this is what students need. They need models, not in the sense that model that this is a story I can write exactly as it is in the exam, but it is that you can see how it's done. I'm slipping to what somebody from your country. Take, for example, if Brian Lara were to say, you make 2 steps forward, you bend your shoulders, and you put your bat down at a 40 degrees angle to block the ball. It's not going off anywhere. It's going to kill the spin. He can say that. But if Brian stands there, takes his bat, makes 2 steps and put it down, you watch it and you say, that is Brian. I can do that. Let me try it. You need models, not just for people to tell you this is what you need to do. So that book will be coming out, hopefully, during the course of next year. And it's going to be on the shelves, and it's for our CXC students across the board. So, and how you think I'm doing it, Kevin? Let's say CSEC is asking people to write between 400 to 450 words. None of my stories will be going beyond 450 words. I cannot tell the students, this is your expectation, and I am going to 600 words to show my excellence, and you are only supposed to write 400 to 450. I'm going to show them how they can do it in 450. Not that the examiners is going to penalize somebody for writing 480, 520, and so on, but they're advised not to go spending too much time. So I want to show them how it can be done. So that's one of my targets in terms of the writing that you're talking about. If I write full time, no, I do all of these things together.
I mean, before you had it, you would I before we made the observation that you speak with passion about the things that you're doing. And a few moments ago, you described the things that you were doing with passion again. It seems that you're the guy who people call in, when uh, persons need help or need, to get English, to get a proper command of the English language. It seems that you're also the guy who people call in to get the editing done. Uh, and in addition to that, I'm looking at the quality of output that you're doing. One of the covers of your books, it has, 10 short plays. Another book, 100 poems. And then listening to you before, you're also talking about pushing out another 100 poems. So from all of these indications, obviously literature is not something that you take lightly. It's something that you might even, I'm going to far as say that it's something that you breathe because I'm wondering when it is that you do all these things, when do you get time to do anything else?
Let me tell you something. When you want to know how I get time to do this, the thing that I want to point out, one word, momentum. Momentum is important. You see, when you are already steeped in it and you want to do, it becomes easier. You can spend some time, and the time that you spend is shorter because you have become more skillful at what you're doing. So you don't have to go looking around, where am I going to get this word? How am I going to do this? It comes to you quicker because you're already steeped in it. So regarding doing all these things, I am capable because I do this every day. Look, this last summer, I was in Canada and the United States. In Canada, at my son's home, I used his study and edited 3 books during that time. Now, over in US, I had gone for 1 week, and the 1 week that I was in the US with a friend of mine, I was able, when she went to work, I was able to stay home, work on my editing, come home, we go liming, watch movies, go wherever. So I make time every single day, Kevin. I say that every single day. If there's some that pass, well, it's unusual. I make time. And even when I go to bed, I may be thinking of something. Now, what do we call this one? We call this the incubation period. So you have a thought in your head, just like how chickens are incubated and they hatch. Now, you go to bed, there's the idea. And in my head now, I'm going to work out structure. And I'm going to work out, how am I going to put this content in this structure? How am I going to be saying it in a way that will carry over, that this is what I want you to understand? All of these things are worked out in my head. I go to the shower, soaping myself, thoughts come again. I run them through my mind. I go through my normal day, things come in my head. So all the time, the incubation is there. When you're ready to sit down and write now, it comes. It comes easier because your mind has been working on it. So, as a matter of fact, that you said I'm passionate about these things, I have spent time to telling writers how to write, advising them when they get what they call writer's block. I say, oh yeah, all of us suffer from that, but I can tell you how to get over that. I know how to get over that. I've tried it. So I can tell them what to do. I can say, this works. Try this. You know why I can do that, Kevin? Because I have the experience of how to do it. So I bridge a lot of gaps. My colleagues, I co-founded a group that we call here, we call it St. Lucia Writers Forum. St. Lucia Writers Forum is in existence for practically 30 years now. I co-founded it and I'm still there. I give talks. I post my poems. I get something from somewhere that is going to be useful. I help them. I've had sessions with them where I say, what do we want to learn? What is important for us? All right, I'm going to address that. It does not mean I am the sole authority. That is not my intention of implying that. It is that I can help, and it does not matter who. People come for help, I give them help. And it doesn't take away from me. And I must say, sorry for taking up so much of your time. I can also say, while I'm helping, it helps me. Let me tell you how it helps me. Because before I go and teach them, I have to concretize that in my mind. How am I going to convey that? So things that may be a little hazy in my mind, I have to clarify it. And when I clarify it, it's now my possession. It comes back to me. It redounds to my benefit. So there it is.
Uh, I, I really enjoy interacting with you because there are a lot of gems that you drop when it is that we're having these conversations. But I like in particular how you mentioned that when it is that you help persons, it also helps you. Indeed, you have a number of accomplishments under your belt, and I believe that it does benefit the writers who are part of the group that you would have formed, in addition to us who would be listening to the works that these writers themselves will be putting out. I have another question because I'm looking at the covers of your books, and I could be wrong, but the conclusion that I came to is that your work has been self-published. Can you give a bit of detail as to how you got into self-publishing and why did you choose self-publishing as opposed to going the traditional route of publishing?
Okay, the self-publishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, firstly, it's hard to get into the mainstream publishing. So most of us start out by putting our own work out. So Amazon was available. Before Amazon, I used to do it with local printers and sell. Then the quality of Amazon is good. And the turnaround is easy, as in a couple of days, you submit your work, it's already printed. And you order it, ship, within about 2 weeks, you get your work. Whereas sometimes local publishers, they're not publishers actually, printers. You might get some delays. They don't have this equipment, that equipment. They're looking for all kinds of things. So I have had some problems with that. So I go through Amazon. And that's what I do. I would like to get into the bigger publishers. Yes, I would like to. But I have not been successful in that. Okay, let me put it this way. I have not been successful because I have not gone approaching them. So I just do my own thing and they sell. So take, for example, my enticing short stories. This set that I have at home, that should be approximately the 4th or 5th set that I have published, because when I finish, people come and ask, Ray, I want one of those books. I hope you have. Oh my, they're all gone, you know. You should have kept one for me, though. And then I say, all right, I'm going to do another one. I remember one guy, for example, said that, oh yes, it was a Christmas time. He said, Ray, when you get that set, I hope it's before Christmas, keep 10 copies to me. I say, hey, you can't be reading 10 copies. He said, I have Christmas gifts to give out. And what better gift? I'm going to give something I like. I'm going to send you a book. And so persons abroad he has sent to. And you see, the thing is, one can look at the e-copy and read. I've done that. I read e-copies. Fine. But so many of us, even though we deal with the internet so much and we do all our work, etc., we still like to hold that book, that physical copy, to lie down on a couch or something and read, mark that page. We enjoy that. And I'm talking about people who, academics, some of the academics, they have done how much of research, tick, 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 tick on their computer, but they want that physical thing. Ray, keep that book for me, autograph it for me. So I don't have a problem with this right now, but I really, if I can get the bigger houses to publish, fine. I'm good. I'm good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to take a short break, after which we're going to return and continue to the interview that we have right now with Mr. Rayman. All right, after that short break, we are back to the interview, and I have a couple more questions for Mr. Rayman. Mr. Rayman, I observed that one of your books focuses specifically on short plays. Is there a reason why you chose to publish a book on plays? Is there any kind of benefit that it would have for persons who are learning the arts in terms of writing or in terms of public speaking?
Yes, the 10 short plays, as I said, these were plays that were written for my students and performed, most of them at the Cultural Center. And the writing, as I said before in the first part of the interview, is integrated. So one reading these plays, they're literary. So for persons doing English language, they're going to be benefiting immensely from these plays because they are meant to entertain people in terms of language, apart from just the dramatic aspect of it. For public speaking, you're going to see excellent speeches.
Okay, excellent, excellent. In terms of persons who would be listening to this interview, obviously you are a very accomplished and invested writer and editor and teacher. For a person who may want to get into writing, what advice would you give to them for someone who wants to get into writing?
All right. It's the old advice that teachers give students. If you want to write, you must read. Regarding the reading opens their minds to new windows of the world. They see things that they would not have seen in their narrow perspective of their education. They see beyond that. They see different cultures, different styles. So when they do these things, their mind broadens and their command of the language becomes greater because they're seeing new words, new expressions, new ways of actually saying something. Because these different writers come from different backgrounds. And when they see these things, it now enables them to write. What do writers do? They try to pick some of the things that work for others, that can it work for me? You know, it's like when teachers speak of we need to follow best practices. It is the same thing about writing. It is the best practices of the different writers. You know what they should do too, Kevin? Not to stick to like how we have a tendency when we were young. If you like a particular writer, you try to get all the books and you're steeped into these books just by this writer because you like them. You need to spread. Go to others whom you have not seen, whom you have not noticed before. And then you see some may not be good. And you say, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this style. I don't like how this thing is expressed. So you're able to be discerning now because you have so much information at your command. You say, all right, I'll take this, or I wouldn't take this. So writers must read. Take, for example, I, as a writer, I read all the time in my spare time. I pick up a book, look at it. Look, I'm just giving you an example. I have been reading Stephen King. Why am I reading Stephen King? I'm reading to find out how he's saying something, but I'm looking at his style of writing. If it appeals to me, what is it that captivates people? Is it the language? Is it the story that he's telling? How is he telling that story? I'm giving you another one. Take, for example, I got the whole the trilogy free from somebody. 50 Shades of Grey. I'm reading. Why am I reading? Not for the just for the kind of sensuality of the book. I'm looking at the language. How is she telling it? I'm looking at the dialogue. How does she manage the dialogue? So when I'm writing now, in my head, I'm going to say, all right, I have this writer saying this. This one works with that one. I'm going to write. I can try this one. So all writers, Kevin, must be readers. The two are integrated. They flow into each other.
It's interesting that you had mentioned reading. And you had mentioned that one of your portfolios is to help persons with their command of the English language. A number of persons on this program, and it may be your opinion of others as well, that with the advent of social media, a lot more persons are invested in watching videos as opposed to doing actual reading. Do you have any advice or any guidance that persons can use to encourage young persons or even adults as well to do more reading as opposed to investing their time in other kinds of media?
You see, I want to say this. We have two kinds of persons that we are addressing right now. One, somebody who may be looking at videos, and it may be for purposes of entertainment. It might be for information. Okay, that's their focus. They want to get these things. But if you're talking about people who want to improve their expression, apart from listening to videos to hear how people speak, how they pronounce words, which are important indeed, that how they pronounce and the actual style, the tone of voice, etc. All of these things, all of these are important. Apart from that, you need to read the written language. What I do, Kevin, when I read or I write, I go to Google and I look for pronunciation of words. So if I'm going to be reading my poem, I have a word in mind that I write. I know the meaning. But then I say, I wonder if this is pronounced this way that I have in my mind, because I'm not too familiar with this word, even though I know the meaning. I mean, to hear it. So I go to it and I say, then I might see other things, the etymology of the word. This is, so you learn about words as you go. So we're looking at people who want to improve themselves as you're interviewing writers. Let the writers go and stick themselves into the written language itself. And the beauty of the written language is this, in learning, is that you hear an audio, sometimes it's gone. Maybe you're not going to play it back. But when you have that written one, you go back, you look at it, and you watch that sentence construction, and you say, that word is used in this context. It has this shade of meaning. He could have used, or she could have used, a different word which means the same thing, the synonym, but that synonym would not necessarily apply. It applies specifically. That's the only word of the synonyms that can match what this person wants to say. You become sensitive to the language. So that's my advice. Get them to read if they want to learn.
Okay, thank you very much for those words. For persons who are interested in finding copies of your books, where can we get copies of them?
Right now, they're on Amazon.
Mm. Are there any hard copies available, or when it is that they do, how can we get
They
our hands on hard copies for the persons
they
who,
they
want to
are
read
hard
pages
copies.
six?
And persons have ordered, persons have told me they enjoyed my book, etc. They're all there. They're all there. They can find them. And I'd be glad if they buy, because the more they buy, the better for me.
Okay.
And the more what is motivation I get, the more I can produce.
Are they available at local bookstores in St. Lucia? The hard copies, that is?
Oh, let me tell you this one. Sad to say, Kevin, our local bookstores are not functioning again. Unlike Trinidad, unlike Barbados, which I know, there is not a single bookstore that feels fiction. The bookstore, I see you put your hand on your head. Indeed. The only bookstores that we have are those that sell textbooks, and they have become haberdashery, etc. They sell all kinds of things. So you can get toilet seats, and you can get this, and you can get that. You can get plates. General stores they have become also. So all our bookstores that were putting out fiction, they're not there again. I remember Barbados has Cloister and what have you. I remember Trinidad, we have a number of them, but we don't have any now. So when I do my book launches, etc., my things are advertised. People know they can contact me. And this country is a small country. We are only 238 square miles. What is it? About 70,000 people. So people get to know one another. They can find the writers easily, and they buy their books. Those are interested, but nothing you can get in the bookstores at the moment, where you have some of these. There have been, let me see, struggling. We have had some cultural thing that was burned down, and you may have one or two places that they have, but they're not really anything. They're more like putting up there as ornaments. People don't go there.
Okay.
Sad to say.
Okay.
And here it is, Kevin, in the land of Derek Walcott, in the land of a Nobel Prize winner for literature, it is like that. Yes.
Yeah, that is, you dropped a bombshell there on us, man.
I know it stunned you. It stunned you. I know.
Okay. Well, okay, Mr. Rayman, that pretty much brings us to the end of our interview. Um, I don't know. I'm just curious. It's good that persons can get books from, person to person or even from Amazon. But in your opinion, would we having a bookstore dedicated to stuff like this, would it help, local authors with their writings? Would it be of benefit to persons around?
All right. It would. I'm answering you directly. It would. And I think up to last year or 2 years ago, there was such a place dedicated to local writers. I think it was government funded or government assisted. And you know what happens when you have people's priorities become different and change of government, etc., etc. I may not know all that happened and why things happen, but it was closed after some time. And it was a place that artists would go, gather. They used to have readings, book launches, etc. It is no more. And it could be said that probably money is limited. People don't have any more money to come and give to things like this. But I believe that the culture is important, the arts are important, and arts is not just playing music and having jazz festivals and carnivals, etc. It's much more than that. You have to look at the foundation of these things, the literary aspect, the writing aspect. Music cannot function without actually, okay, it can, yes, just music alone, but generally you need writing to go for songs. You need that. You need workshops. You need people who are capable of transferring a poem into a song. I should say transforming that. So you need these things. And if you're going to have your jazz festivals, etc., again, you have singers coming. You need that thing where you coach people to write, to create. So we can have, when people talk about the creative arts industry, you have to look, when you're speaking of that, you have to look at two things basically that I'm thinking about. Not only what you're going to be making in terms of money, how profitable it is, you have to look at the next aspect of the creative arts where the local people themselves will benefit. And if one has to come and put money, you have to look at the balance, not just the profit. You're going to be serving the people. Let us suppose that we're going to have a play in a community. You want playwrights, you want actors. And you can now, I'm speaking about like government, to say, we're going to be patronizing this event. So we're going to give a kind of a concession. We're going to pay 50% of it or something. And the rest you do, and you go ahead. And this 50% we're giving is because we want the people to come and attend. Let the people learn. Let the people benefit from our culture. So cultural industry is important in a country. It is the kind of food of the intelligentsia too. They have to learn. You get them from small. Just to let you know a little something. I was invited to one of the primary schools to have a poetry session. Kevin, one poetry session that was supposed to be an hour lasted less than an hour because we had, time for talking to the children, etc. And out of that, these little children in a primary school wrote their one stanza of 4 lines, and they want to have this published now. So we put that together. The teachers put that together. But the cost of publishing, well, printing in that case, was so much, is that the teachers are now daunted by that. They say, oh my, we have to put all that money for these children. And here's what I would have liked. I would have liked like donors to come and say, oh, for these children, we can pay that money, or we subsidize it and you sell it for $2, $5, or whatever. Not for this 21 EC dollars. So much has to be done in terms of a country developing itself. We have to start from the ground with these little children. So the bookshop that you spoke of, we want that again.
Okay. I think this is something I need to talk about a bit more. Unfortunately, we kind of run out of time, but I think we'll revisit this conversation, Mr. Rayman.
I would be happy to.
Well, that being said, Mr. Rayman, thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed by Tropical Literature Creatives at this time. We really enjoyed speaking with you, and we really appreciated the insight that you have provided in terms of literature, the arts, and all the processes involved in these things and the benefits that it brings to the persons who practice them. So from us at Tropical Literature Creatives, we wish you the best in your successes and your undertakings, and we look forward to hearing about all the other projects that you'll be undertaking.
Thank you, Kevin. I enjoyed this immensely, and I spoke about a lot of things. And perhaps on another day, if you want, I am available. We can talk on the record, off the record. It does not matter.
Okay, you're welcome. And you take care.
Bye.
Okay, goodbye. You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.